There I am. It's always weird starting up stream because it takes a few seconds for it to actually reach Twitch. So I don't really know when to start talking. Ooh, my voice is a little more messed up than I thought it would be. My voice was kind of messed up yesterday, but not as bad as I thought it would have been. Honestly, the main reason I didn't stream yesterday was because I forgot I had plans early in the day and stayed up probably a little bit longer than I should have the night before, so I got like 4 hours of sleep and did not want to mess up my schedule any further, so I just stayed up. And it probably would not have been the most entertaining stream to watch on that low amount of sleep. So yeah, here I am, back with Terraria. How it's kind of weird to me that this world has so much more time on it, despite I've spent so much time on this world doing, or this character, I guess, doing absolutely nothing. And we're about tied with how I am on this character. I've got like one more life plant thing, but that isn't a really accurate depiction of how far in the game I am. Anyways, this one. Alright, I did nothing last stream. I should probably try and focus a little bit more on the game, at least to start out here, because if I, oh, what? I thought I fixed it. Didn't I fix it? Yeah, someone's living down there, just not enough people. Okay. Well, that sucks. That's not oh, no. My nightmares have realized themselves. Somehow the corruption spread to the desert. Who fucking knows how, but you know what, I could have done this in a much better way. Yeah, alright, I guess that's what we're starting out with. God, do I love corruption. It is wasted a large amount of time in my 2 Master Mode Terraria playthroughs. Did they amp? See, like, where did this spread from? Like, it's literally not touching anything. Where did it spread from? It does not make sense. Like, straight up. Like, I've joked about it just makes its own fucking rules, but, like, that didn't spread from anywhere. It just showed up for no reason. If I'm wrong about that, and, like, someone looks at the last VOD where I cleaned that up, and maybe I missed a block, but I really don't fucking think I did. Like, you spread... Where did this come from, though? There's just no winning with it. There really isn't. Unless you destroy literally every spreadable block. There's just no winning with this shit. I don't know if Master Mode actually, like, beefed up the spread of corruption, but it really feels like it has. Or changed some mechanic around it. Because this has been miserable. Like, there are... I mean, I don't really want to start out by just shitting on Terraria again, because here I am still playing it. But, yeah, I don't know about this final update. This final update has offered a lot less content than you would expect from a final update. Master Mode is a pretty huge letdown. And I don't know, it seems like they made corruption worse. Solar eclipse is happening. This is perfect timing. Just beautiful. Like, I just have to let this spread because I'm just gonna die repeatedly in this event. And, of course, because Terraria by default is Terraria by default, and they don't offer you any way to skip these events. Like, I think 2 ways about it. It's like, and also let me put my chat where I like to. I forgot to do that. I think two ways about like the lack of ability to skip events in particular, or like speed up time, any sort of thing like that. I think the reasoning behind them wanting to keep it how it is, which is not good, they offer you like no real way of speeding up time. They added the ability to sleep in beds, but A, you can't do that during hostile events like blood moons or solar eclipses, and B, it speeds up time way too slow. Like, it is not fast enough to actually be usable. It's like 2 times speed, maybe, but even then, you still have to spend, like, you know, way more minutes than I would like if I'm just trying to, like, fight a boss that I have to do during the nighttime or something. Anyways. Back to the topic on what I actually think about how it currently is versus something like Calamity Mod that just pretty much gives you free, I mean literally gives you free ability to switch between daytime and nighttime once you reach hard mode, and even beyond that, they let you skip events like this. Personally, I prefer the ability of freely being able to skip events because I think that, I mean, you know, there's nothing I can really gain from this event right now. I don't think you get any cool drops until... When does this change? I think it's like either post-Plantera or post-all-mechanical bosses. But that's when, like, you can get the Demon Scythe or whatever it is, and the like magic flask vial item from those fly guys. The only thing you can get pre whatever that turning point is the seashell and the vampire charm, which are not spectacular. So pretty garbage. I'm like, it's literally just a waste of 10 minutes, which is, you know, if I was designing the game, I would look at that and be like, we should do something about this. But that's not how Terraria is developed. I see the like, what I think the likely reasoning for them keeping it like this is, and it is because of hardcore. That is like the only defense I can have for forcing players to go through these events, is when you are playing on hardcore, these would become like a real frightening thing that you have to worry about. The thing is, though, right? Like, if I really cared about my survival, I mean, I'm not doing a good job of demonstrating. But, I mean, if there would have been much less enemies spawning had I done this as soon as I saw the event. Like, this is what happens if you are playing Terraria hardcore and you truly care about your own survival. Okay. Here I am, playing the event the way Terraria devs intend you to play. I mean, they obviously don't want players to do this, but if you're on a hardcore world and this happens at about this level of preparation, like it has to me, this is all you do. Because you have no chance of, like, really engaging with the event. What the fuck, dude? I've never seen an enemy move that fast. Anyways. You have no real opportunity to engage with this event at this level. You're gonna die. And there's no real benefit to engaging with it. Like I said, there's like very few item drops and they're not particularly useful before either Plantera or mechanical bosses, whatever it is. So I don't really understand their reasoning behind it. This definitely isn't You know, a good representation of Terraria. You know, if you're trying to make it fun, engaging, scary, like, there's no threat when you can just do this. Obviously, when the scythe-wielding death guys start spawning in, you can't really do this because they can go through walls, but, like, even still, I could bar up the doors and have my whole house to run around in, and the scythe guys aren't really that threatening, so long as you see them ahead of time. So, I don't know. I definitely lean more towards the ability to just skip events like this, because, you know, this isn't fun. Is the bottom line. Like, just waiting for the event to end is not fun, and that's how, I mean, safely waiting for the event to end is even less fun. If I was on hardcore and I really had to make sure I didn't die, like, it's just a miserable experience. Like, literally the game just decides you have to wait and do nothing for 10 minutes, so definitely fun and engaging. But yeah, I forget what I was talking about before this shit happened. Probably the corruption that is spreading like crazy and pisses me off still. It's bad. It's really bad the way it currently is. I don't know if they changed it for Master Mode or what, but it is really, really bad. Maybe it's just like... The thing is, I want to say, like, oh, maybe this is just a thing that's always been in Terraria, and it's never really affected me, but that seems much more unlikely, since I've played a lot of playthroughs of Terraria, and have never had issues with corruption to this degree. Like, never has it ever encroached anywhere near my house to the point where all NPCs move out, you know? It's also probably a little bit different this time around because I have my houses spread out across the world, so it's more likely that it would affect at least one of those housing locations. Like the desert being the prime one, because the desert is like the worst place to try and uncorrupt. And I understand that, but it's still like, it is reaching my house, and I've never had that happen before, and I don't know. I saw that the corruption spawns in, like, apparently a V-shaped pattern whenever you enter hard mode for the first time. But at least the way the wiki seemed to represent that information, it seemed to imply that that was a one-time thing. And it just spawns corruption in, and then, you know, it spreads from there, but it doesn't keep spawning in. But that's kind of what it feels like it's been doing. It kind of feels like this is just a part of the V pattern that is going to keep being corrupted despite not having any direct connection to other corruption. And I'm not sure if I'm just looking too deep into things, maybe it's just corrupting from somewhere from like a much farther range than I thought corruption could spread. I don't really know. Whatever it is, like whatever is happening, whether it's a change or whether it's been in the game my whole life, it is truly horrible. And, I got a shell. Look at that. Yeah, it's just really bad. And they should, I don't know, maybe endeavor to make it not as awful as it currently is. There's also, like, something along the lines of saying, like, maybe you're only experiencing it now because it slows down significantly post-Plantera, and it usually doesn't take you as long to get post-Plantera, and I understand that too, but whatever the situation is what I'm trying to say. Like, no matter what the circumstance is that's causing this, I don't think it should be possible within the game, because the way I have been forced to, like, constantly maintain the world's corruption so that I have NPCs that I can engage with, because it's kind of like a required system. especially with the new pylons, like being able to teleport is, you know, it's hard to live without it once you've lived with it. So it sucks. I really hate the corruption. I also kind of really hate graveyards. They're less bad, but it is another just annoying level of tedium that if you don't want graveyards everywhere, you have to constantly pick up your tombs. Which is just annoying. Not as bad as the corruption, though. Because picking up a gravestone is like half a second of work. Having to purify your world with purification powder is about as awful as things get. It's been like regularly 30 minutes of work every single time I've decided to play Terraria again. Vampires are fun enemies, huh? At least this horrible event is almost over. And I can play the game again. Because that's something that you should have to say while trying to have fun. There's other things that I'd like to talk about, but I don't want to get too into some of the other topics I had in mind because they are much longer-winded, and I'm afraid that if I start talking about, like, more directly things I take issue with in Terraria, it'll distract me from making progress, and I'd like to at least have, like, one stream in between streams where I don't make progress, where I do actually make progress, otherwise I will never be free of having to play this game. Cool. Which, I don't know. At this point, I really don't think, given the way the last few Terraria streams have gone, I don't think that many people would genuinely be upset if I stopped playing Terraria and just moved on to other games. Go back to Nier, for example. Which, I mean, I am still going to go back to Nier regardless, once Terraria is over, whether naturally or prematurely. And I'm currently leaning more towards the side of finishing this. But, damn. Has Master Mode and my constant struggle with the corruption not really been all that enjoyable. Not at all. What's hitting me? Harpies. Cool. Can it just, like, be nighttime, please? And it sucks that this is a daytime event, too, because then you immediately have to go into nighttime, and... Dude, who's looking forward to the solar eclipse into Blood Moon? So that I, once again, can't do anything. I wanted to fix the corruption, and it's already, like, the purification powder I threw has immediately grown back into corruption. There aren't really that many interviews, at least not as far as I've seen, there aren't that many interviews with the Terraria developers. I'd be interested in seeing what their thoughts are on certain subjects that I think are a little bit messy with Terraria's design. Can you just run away? Like, why are you guys still here? Because like I was saying last stream, it feels like a lot of Terraria development was just someone had an idea, They thought for a little bit about how to implement it, and then they just threw it in the game and kind of left it as is. Which, as I was saying last time again, I do understand developing a game in that way, but it's definitely not something I endeavor to do in the future for various reasons. I really like to know what they were thinking with Master Mode, honestly. But I have a feeling, I don't know, maybe they'll talk about that directly. It doesn't really feel like they want to talk about that directly, because there's already been plenty of opportunity to make a statement about it, or change things in the numerous patches they've introduced to the game. But nothing has been said about it. Which, again, I also understand, because, like, I can't even say why spend the work on making Master Mode if you're just going to remove it, because, you know, to anybody aware of what is actually different in Master Mode, it's not exactly a hard change to make, especially when most of the infrastructure already existed for Expert Mode. Like, maybe they did slight balancing work, which maybe took a little bit of time, but I think it would be more surprising if I found out that it took a long time to implement Master Mode than it would if I found out they added it in a day. Because that's about how much work it should have taken, honestly, given how much is actually different. And how much of that already existed in Expert Mode, like I said. Given that no bosses have new AI, the only thing that changed are values that had already been tweaked before. Can't really envision that taking much time. So, you know, why not just remove it? I think it's, there's a number of reasons why not just remove it, but I don't know. I don't really know. I think that the right decision would definitely not be to just remove it. But I also don't really think it's the right decision to leave things in the game as they currently are. Because it really, I don't know, it's just kind of like not a good experience for players to engage with, and you know, if you give players an opportunity to play a certain game mode that is, you know, even if you outline it as, oh, it's the hardest game mode, which it, you know, is objectively, just because the value, well, not even objectively, actually, because the way they changed defense kind of tilts the scales into making things easier in a way, just to some aspects of it, but anyways. If you leave the option in the game, people are gonna play it, and I am a firm believer that you shouldn't in any way allow players to engage with an experience that will ultimately be unenjoyable. This desert is fucking lost. Like, it's too late. Like, what am I supposed to do about this? This is why I hate deserts. Like, you can't purify them once they've been corrupted, because every single sand block, all of the hardened sand, everything is a corrupted block. It's not just the edges like it is in above ground surface biome. So my options for making a house here are, like, make an artificial desert biome somewhere that is completely separate from plausible corruption, or dig up my entire desert. God, it spreads so fucking fast. Like, who thought this was enjoyable? The fact that pylons exist just makes it, like, infinitely more obvious how bad this is as a mechanic. And I really do believe they made it worse in Master Mode, because I've never had worlds corrupted as quickly as my worlds have been corrupted in this world. And the other Master Mode playthrough. I just want a break. Like, please leave me alone so I can just start digging the desert up. And still, even with, like, the best equipment I can have at this point, it, takes a good, like, at least 10 or 15 shots before I kill basic enemies, which is pretty awesome. Cool, dude. Awesome. Yeah. Fun and engaging Terraria gameplay. Like, I don't even know what the right course of action is. There really doesn't seem to be one. This world is, like, so beyond fucked that, it would likely be easier just to make a new world and deal with things in that world. It's such an awful thing to do. Like, there's no right answer here. It's just, it's going to be miserable no matter what I decide to do. And I still don't have a contaminator because I haven't built enough houses, and now that I have built enough houses, it doesn't even matter because all of my houses are getting corrupted constantly in every fucking biome. You know, what do you do? What do you do? Is this corrupted yet? Nope. That's all good. Though, as that spreads, it might not be at some point. So what do I do? I really wasn't thinking about ending the Terraria series at all until this corruption has gotten as annoying and tedious as it has. And the fact that, you know, for some god-awful reason, NPCs can live in Hollowed, but they're not allowed to live in corruption, so, like, they can just... It takes over your world, and there's absolutely nothing you can do. It's just a miserable mechanic. But, I don't know. It's clear that the Terraria devs see things very differently than I do, as far as what they think is good for their game. Which is whatever, you know, who cares? Who cares? I am, like, super just... Like, this would be the saddest ending to the series, though, right? Like, how do I justify that? And just be like, Terraria has ended because because it became miserable? I mean, it has really become miserable. Hello, Potato Magic. What's your take? You know, you're the definitely the biggest supporter of Terraria among people who watch me. Would it really be worth it to finish this? Genuinely. As we look at my constantly corrupted world, and the ridiculous amount of maintenance it is taking every single stream to reasonably progress. I did, like, do 2 hours of absolutely nothing last stream, but, like, okay, so what would the game plan being forward? Even if I just ignore the houses and just say, okay, I guess I'm not gonna have NPCs, right? Like, NPCs don't matter. Let's just play the game without NPCs and without the pylon network. Who needs to teleport? Then I've got 2 mechanical bosses to kill. I kill Plantera, which will you know, supposedly make the corruption spread less, though given the fact that it seems like it's amped up in Master Mode. Seems. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it seems to be amped up in Master Mode. Maybe that doesn't actually change all that much. What even comes after Plantera? Vanilla Terraria is just like Plantera into Golem into Moonlord? That's not that much farther, honestly. Maybe I just fucking jam through it. It is awful, though, and I do hate the corruption. Whatever has been done to it, or maybe it's my own perception on it, has been an unwelcome change to the game. To put things lightly. Alright, then let's focus. Let's focus pretty hard on actually pushing forward. I know that those two combine. What all of these can I actually combine? That's one. I think that's it. Yeah. Okay. I can make the plan. That's the only thing I can combine. I think blindfold is its own thing. Guide, what are the materials I need to make this honk thing? It's Megaphone and Nazar. I don't think I've gotten the Nazar. And then, yeah, that's for the full honk charm. Wait, I've gotten Band-Aids, haven't I? Where did those go? I swear I've gotten Band-Aids. Am I blind? Nope. I'm just stupid. And blind. Okay. I guess I should have said yes, then. That's all. So I need the poison one, which I'll probably get on accident while clearing things for Plantera. And what else? Nazar, which I'll get in dungeon once that becomes a thing I need to worry about. What's that one? Weakness and broken armor. Oh wait, that's the... okay, so vitamins and the armor one that I also get in the dungeon. Cool. Cool. Where I put boss items somewhere. Consumable? Yeah. Alright, gonna do the twins. I don't have any fucking weapon for the destroyer, unfortunately. And I don't know an easy way of getting a weapon for the destroyer. Let me see. Let's just Google Terraria weapons and look at what pierces. Terraria weapons. Uh-huh. This is deep and insightful. These melee weapons? I've never seen some of these. What do you even get this from? Oh, the Old Ones Army event that I have never really engaged with. Dauntless Stormbow is tasty. Yeah, it's not a bad call. That's not a bad call. I think that's what I've typically used for Destroyer, with piercing arrows. Not a bad call. Oh, it has been nerfed, though. 5 whole damage. Oh, it's been nerfed considerably when you shoot most arrow types that aren't wooden arrows, if not all arrow types. I'm trying to think of what arrow types there are. It also fires about a quarter of the speed. Yeah, hopefully it's not that bad with the nerf. That's probably what I'm going to go for. How many souls do I have? Not enough. I've got Souls of Night. Where do I even get Souls of Light? I'll farm Souls of Light until, I got them over here. Until it's nighttime. and then fight the twins. But yeah, this has definitely been, I mean, it's genuinely been a super long time since I played vanilla Terraria. So I might just be a little bit too accustomed to mods, which makes the vanilla Terraria experience feel even worse than it probably should. But I mean, there's still, so now I guess I'll get into it. Nice! What stage of the game? Are you post-Plantera or pre-Plantera? Because I typically do Fizron post-Plantera, yeah. He's pretty damn hard pre-Plantera. But, yeah, Terraria, I don't know, man. I just don't know. It's hard to... Like, you can't really talk about definitely, you know... Before Mech, yeah, that's rough. Like, I definitely wouldn't look forward to that one. It's hard to talk about things and say, like, oh, this is an issue with Terraria, right? Because if you say it's an issue with Terraria, there will, in most cases, be someone to defend it. Like, for example, my distaste for the fact that items that are borderline required to beat the game are locked behind RNG, whether that's through fishing or through chests, it's still random. And, you know, it's not a common occurrence, but especially for things like Magma Charm, like, I wouldn't be all that surprised if you had a world that just didn't generate with a Magma Charm. Frost Armor. That's what I'm using on my other world. It's, like, not bad at all. It can carry you for a while. Shroomite? I've never used the Shroomite armor, I don't think. I pretty much just use the Chlorophyte one by itself, or the magic one I've used from the dungeon. So it's hard to talk about things that I think are wrong with the game that so many people enjoy, but I certainly think that some aspects of it, and I'm not really getting Souls of Light here, I should move further to the right. Some aspects of it, there's at least discussion to be had. Like, for example, I mean, I'm just, you know, why not walk through it from the very beginning? Let's walk through how not only a standard playthrough has gone, let's walk through, at least from the beginning, how this playthrough has gone, since this one has been pretty particularly troubled with the corruption in ways that I've never experienced before. So, when you start a world of Terraria, it's safe to say that controlling the game feels pretty awful. Your base movement speed is, to be generous, sluggish. Your base jump height? What is base jump height? Give me a second. I think it's 3 or 4 blocks. Wings off, boots off. I don't think oh no, I have balloon off. Base jump height is, God, it just moving around feels so awful. Give me a second. Let's do some science here. I definitely can't jump that high. I think I could jump that high. Oh, I maybe could have jumped 1 more block. Yeah, until you get a grappling hook. Things are... Oh, I definitely could have. There you go. That's max jump height. I don't think I could... Oh, no, okay. This is max jump height. Here we go. That is... 6 blocks. 6 blocks tall. It's max jump height. I maybe should even this block out. Oh, that counts as a full block. Yeah, six blocks. Not a lot. Just exactly double your height, which is pretty standard for games, I would say, to jump double your character's height. But in a game where the blocks, like, I don't know, the size of a block to your player is pretty small. Like, obviously Minecraft just has much beefier blocks, and it's hard to say, like, what is a good size for a block in a game that gives you creation tools. Definitely the finer you make the blocks, the more creativity people can have with it. Like, take Minecraft with chisels and bits, for example. Like, if you can have incredibly fine detailing, it definitely amplifies the amount of creation you can do in the game. But to some degree, the finer you make the block size, the... Like, at some point, you can't reasonably expect players to, like, dig through. Like, say each block was a quarter the size it currently is, like, even if you increased pickaxe size like Starbound does, where you can mine multiple blocks at once, you know, it's just kind of a clunky system in my opinion. But, okay, back to the example. First Terraria playthrough, or not first, it doesn't really matter, just any Terraria playthrough, starting out. Movement, pretty awful. Like, when you're expected to go traversing in caves, like, you have recently, as of 1.3, the ability to use ropes, which helps quite a bit, honestly. But there's definitely a lot of digging you have to do right off the bat. No argument. Since they have removed the ability to call in meteors, like if you want an example of how I used to play the game, the very first thing I would do, I would go mining just for like a little bit until I get a bomb. Then I'd have my demolitionist show up, and as soon as the demolitionist shows up, I go to Corruption or Crimson and bomb open either the hearts or the orbs so that I can get a meteor. And then I bomb the meteor and get meteorite armor and skip a large chunk of the early gameplay that I don't really think is enjoyable. So if you are not allowed to do that and you're forced to do the mining section, more or less forced to, you know, obviously you can beat the game with no accessories and no armor, it's just, it would require a hell of a lot of cheesing and preparation that makes the game even less enjoyable, in my opinion. So you mine. You mine for at least the first probably 5 hours of gameplay, is I would say roughly on average how long the mining segment takes. Like the very first one where you're just trying to get armor decent enough to I mean, you can go all the way until you get, well, I guess you can't anymore, right? I was gonna say until you could get Hellstone, but they've kind of changed that too. Even before 1.4, I think. So you mine until you can at the very least kill Cthulhu and whatever your Corruption/Crimson boss is, either Eater of Worlds or Brain of Cthulhu, right? That's not that bad. You can get away with it with pretty low armor. Master mode definitely forces you to mine a little bit longer, which goes into why I haven't really found Master mode all that enjoyable. Just kind of emphasizes a lot of the parts I don't like about the game. But you have to mine at least a little bit, right? Like, you're not fighting, at least most people aren't fighting Brain of Cthulhu, Eater of Worlds with wooden armor, right? Why does the mining exist in the game? I don't know. To me, it's probably one of the worst parts of the game. From a game design standpoint, it exists to force the player into a certain part of the game, which is underground. That's where the harder enemies are. That's where, like, the majority of the early game challenge lies, is struggling in caverns, right? So the mining is essentially like a tool, a game design tool to force the players into the harder parts of the game. And it does a decent job of rewarding the player too by putting random chests everywhere that, you know, give large instant movement abilities like Hermes boots, double jump, aglet, flippers, like I just got in that chest. Even some combat advantages, like the boomerang, the ice sword if you're in an ice place. Trying to think of what other weapons. I think the snowball gun is in a chest, maybe. So there's fair amount of reason to find the caves exciting when you get so many things thrown at you so quickly. Yeah. I mean, obviously. But, we're gonna just look at the typical experience. Obviously, if you just, use, monster statues to get permanent invincibility frames on every boss, it works a little bit differently, but... I don't know if there's a better way to force people into the more challenging aspects of the game. Like, it's kind of a weird spot. Like, the early game of Terraria is really hard for me to talk about because it's so... I don't know. I don't want to say, like, fundamentally flawed or something like that. But it is... I can say fundamentally weird to work around without completely deconstructing it and turning it into something different. Like, if there's no easy, simple change I could make to it to improve it. Like, there's tons of examples where there are, like, easy solutions in game design. I'm trying to think of one in Terraria off the top of the head. Someone give me an issue. Like, I don't know, what is an issue? There's lots of issues I have with Terraria. Surely I could think of something that's, like, an easy fix. Okay, how about heart crystals? Heart crystals, in my opinion, are an easy... Oh, I literally avoided it and then walked into it. Awesome. Oh, it's probably nighttime anyways. I should be, fighting the boss, in all likelihood. Hopefully it's not too late in nighttime. It's too late in nighttime. Alright, just gonna wait till next nighttime, I guess. Oh, I can teleport to ice. I should be able to teleport to ice. I think I did last time. I can't remember, since it's technically hollowed. Can I? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So heart crystals are an example of something that I would say is a pretty easy game design. I believe that heart crystals are a little bit of a game design issue. I'm not sure about the duplication glitch. It wouldn't surprise me if they did. It also wouldn't surprise me if they decided to leave it in, just because it's kind of niche and most people aren't going to find it by accident, so if they wanted to keep it in because they enjoy the speedruns, then that wouldn't shock me. But I'm not really sure. They could have fixed it. Last I saw of a speedrun, which was 1.3, definitely didn't fix it then, so I don't know if that was addressed in 1.4. But yeah, life crystals, so the issue I have with life crystals, to start out with that, is it's similarly tied to the fact that I don't think that such drastically important upgrades should be gated behind RNG. The difference with light crystals is that in general, they offer you many more than one player would ever need. The difference, on the other hand, though, is that you do need many more life crystals than you do need Hermes boots, for example. Like, you only need 1 Hermes boots per player, whereas life crystals you need... How many hearts do you start with? I think you start with 5 hearts, so you need 15 life crystals per player, right? Assuming you start with 5, which I'm pretty sure you do. Oops, wrong house. And that becomes a lot more of an issue the more players you're deciding to bring into a world. You never want to be left in a situation where to allow everybody to progress in the game, you have to make a new world, right? And that's even one of the things that they haven't addressed via fishing. You can't get heart crystals via fishing. So heart crystals are the one thing that is like truly limited in a Terraria world. Not including ores, obviously. But that's so abundant that it'll never be a real issue. This is fun. So yeah, well, what is the quick and easy fix? If they want to do it the Terraria way, they could just add it as a rare, you know, item in the loot table for fishing, right? The way I would probably do it is add it as a rare drop from either killing enemies or killing bosses, because you know, obviously, as you could tell from my last conversation on Terraria, I am much more accepting of, or not accepting, it's just much more respecting of rewards for the main mechanic of a game that are rewarded by engaging with the main mechanic of the game. I am still trying to get souls. Oh, where's that pressure plate? It hasn't even been that long. And I've got 9 souls, which is, I think I had 6 at home, so that's enough for 1 hollowed mimic. Not very good odds at getting the Dauntless Stormbow. I haven't been getting that many of them, although this hollowed biome isn't really the best. I would definitely rather there wasn't this granite place in the middle of it, and I had a little bit more freedom to move around. I think I also should go a little deeper, because I think that you only get souls at a certain depth, and I might not be quite deep enough at certain parts of this. But anyways, yeah, I think it would be a pretty easy fix, for example, to step 1 dynamite. I think I'll be okay without it. But I definitely am aware that, like, spawns go up drastically when you clear a large area. I'm very familiar with that. So if that's such an easy fix, back to the harder fix, how do you fix the early game of Terraria? Which is a very hard question to answer, especially considering a lot of people probably don't even think it's broken. But if you're like me, and you think that it should be more engaging, or shouldn't force the players into what is basically like the equivalent of mining in something like RuneScape. It's not quite the same, right? So like they force you to go into caves because of the threats that lie in there, right? And I'm trying to think, what would I prefer? Would I prefer if the game... Because I think the biggest issue for it, for me, is the fact that I would prefer there is less time in between the start of a playthrough and the first boss. Whereas if you're playing on Master Mode, you're probably not going to be able to kill your first boss in the first night. Probably. Like, you can do it with no accessories and no armor, given enough good consumables to carry you. Like, if you're using grenades or something, it would be plausible, but I think in general it's safe to say that first night Master Mode, you're probably not going to kill Eye of Cthulhu. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I struggle to find, like, the line to draw on what should be changed about it, because I know that a lot of people don't mind the early game mining. I think that, honestly, I kind of prefer hard mode mining just because the ores are much easier to blaze through. Like, the only difficulty I have with it really is the fact that titanium kind of blends in with every other gray ore. But in general, you make your way through hard mode mining faster than you make your way through pre-hard mode mining, I think. At least that's how it is for me. And it's safe to say that for this playthrough, I didn't need to prepare quite as much as I did, but I also didn't want to waste my consumables to spawn the boss, because I didn't have enough armor. So it's a weird spot. The only thing I could say that would probably improve it for me is... Definitely, I really despise the fact that movement options are tied to random chance. Dude, I really need to find a better spot to farm for souls, because this is... like, maybe down there is good? But this is all corruption, and it quickly, just nothing is even spawning here, which is frustrating. Things were spawning a little bit more in the other area, but I wasn't getting that many souls because it was too high up, I think. Maybe not. Oops. Almost accidentally got killed by that. How many times have I gone through that and not triggered it? See, like, it's not even giving me the hollowed biome back here, but I guess it's good enough to get souls, so whatever, I'll stay here. But once you kill your first boss, things pick up a bit. If you can kill Eye of Cthulhu, you're likely able to kill Brain of Cthulhu / Eater of Worlds pretty easily. And once you've killed that, the only thing left is... Am I missing something? Yeah, I'm missing Skeletron. It's, this is fine. This spawning section is fine. I just, for some reason, I'm not getting that many souls, but I don't know. Anyways. It doesn't take that much preparation from killing the first two bosses to kill Skeletron. King Slime, not really a boss. Neither is the bee. I still haven't even killed the bee in this world, but you're just rewarded so little that I mean, you're likely to fight King Slime on accident at some point, just because of the Raining Slime event, but doesn't really count as a boss, since it has no ties to progression in the game. Skeletron, so the dungeon is my example of, like, kind of what I wish the early game mining section was more like, which is pretty hard to obtain that level of, like, you literally just go in here to kill enemies and you get, like, very quick and easy items that allow you to progress, right? The dungeon is a lot more, or a lot less useful than it originally was. You know, Muramasa doesn't really hold the same strength it used to. But there's still, like, a decent amount of good items you can get from it, and especially once you grab the, what is it called? Is it the Obsidian Key? Shadow Key? Once you grab the Shadow Key, you get even more free items in Hell. So that's, like, the best section of the early game for me, in my opinion. I think that, once you kill Eye of Cthulhu, it kind of just, like, snowballs for a bit and is the most enjoyable bit of the early game. They are free money, you're not wrong about that. But then things slow down for a bit once you get to Wall of Flesh, because Wall of Flesh, on average, I mean, I can't even say on average, just like literally, he is going to take more preparation than any of the prior bosses have. Like, for Skeletron, you maybe want to put a few platforms down, but, like, not super required, really. Not even on Master Mode. Like, even on Master Mode, you can do it fairly easily without platforms. And there are always ways you can cheese any boss. Like, you know, you can say B-nades, you can say Molotov cocktails, right? Like, obviously, everything can be done easily, but I'm just trying to go off of what the average player is going to experience. And what the average player is going to experience is typically building a really, really long platform. I would say that you poll, like, every single person who has gotten to hard mode in Terraria, probably looking at, like, an 80 to 90% I built a huge-ass platform for Wall of Flesh. It's just the thing that comes naturally, and obviously there are people who use gravitation potions. Obviously, if you're, like, really lucky, you have water walking, maybe even a lava charm. So there are definitely exceptions to it, but I would say that most people find themselves wanting to make a huge platform. So that goes into the absolute lowest point in pre-hard mode for me. Being forced to, well, I say forced, borderline forced, incentivized, let's use that word. Being incentivized to build a huge 1,000-block platform in Hell, which is by far the highest density of annoying enemies. This far into the game, at least. It's pretty unfun. And now Corruption and Crimson aren't spreading, really, at this point in the game. They spread through grass, but they don't spread through most other blocks. I don't even know, how much, do they even spread through sand at all pre-hard mode? I don't even think it spreads through sand at all. So, Corruption and Crimson spreading, not an issue at all. Now, after you've been miserable for... It does spread through sand. It doesn't spread through stone. I know for sure it doesn't spread through stone pre-hard mode. There are a lot more blocks that it doesn't spread through pre-hard mode. So, on average, you're not going to have an issue with the Corruption or Crimson. And it spreads a lot slower than once you start hard mode, for sure. So, once you kill Wall of Flesh, which is just, not only is it, I mean, if we want to talk about boss design, we can talk about boss design, but I'll probably wait until after this little run-through example. Because each boss, there's a handful of things to talk about. I do have the Endless Musket Pouch, yeah. What are even the other bullets? I have 16 tungsten bullets. Awesome. Who needs to spend money on better bullets or craft better bullets when the ones they give you for free are good enough? I should probably harvest some crystals if I care about my future, but I kind of don't. I'll worry about that later. You know, it's probably maybe close to next nighttime, kind of. Alright, let's start prepping for the Twins boss fight while I continue talking. Yeah, I know you can easily make crystal bullets, but you can also, even easier, not worry about it. And that's the route I take. The easiest of them all. Oh, slime is falling. Speak of the devil. That doesn't interfere with Twins, does it? I don't think so. No. I'll try and take care of King Slime, but like, if it gets closer to nighttime and I haven't killed... No, you know what? I'm just gonna let it slide. I don't care. Where are my potions? They're not that bad. I find them easier than Destroyer. I think Destroyer is definitely my weakest boss fight of the mech bosses. You think Destroyer... Are you saying Destroyer is easily the hardest, or you think Destroyer is easy? I'm out of water. Because I definitely don't think Destroyer is easiest. I don't remember what herbs I need for potions. I'm just gonna grab them all. It's easy to kill. I don't have anything that pierces, though. The shotgun doesn't really cut it. It's getting nighttime faster than I would have liked. I know I need... Oh, I don't have the armored cavefish. Oh well. Yeah. That takes preparation to get, though. Dude. What am I looking for? I'm looking for cactus. Here we go. We got there. Okay. What potions do I want? Definitely a regen. And a swiftness. What's the other one I typically get? Iron skin. I need 1 nugget. There it is. And that's just a day bloom. Easy enough. Yeah, definitely need that one for the boss fight. Okay. Does one of these... Yeah, burger. Awesome. Just throw away my chicken nugget. Sorry. This isn't my platform. So. Oh! Let's not talk about... after you kill Wall of Flesh, when I haven't even gotten the boss spawn item. Look, there's infinite chicken nuggets in this world. We don't need to worry about that one. There we go. Accidentally quick stacked it. Is it nighttime? Yes! Gonna take a yes on that one. good start to the fight. Okay, let's, I gotta work on my lead here. So, you enter hard mode, right? You kill the wall of flesh. That is... like, you go from, like, a low point of preparing for wall of flesh to probably the lowest point in the game, in my opinion. Which is what I'm still in to this moment, is the mechanical bosses and, like, preparation for the mechanical bosses can be pretty awful. That's not the one I want to be attacking. Try and keep one of the twins as low as you can, because they are pretty garbage when you don't lower their HP. And I keep the laser one low, because when it starts shooting its lasers, like, incredibly quickly, it is basically just random whether you can dodge them or not. Whereas Spasmatism is pretty easily dodgeable from start to finish. So, as soon as you enter hard mode, especially in master mode, everything becomes so ridiculously strong compared to you that you can't even reasonably kill them with any of your pre-hard mode weapons. And it took me like an hour or so before I got the materials to make this weapon, and then I still had to do like another 30 minutes to an hour to make the anvil on the next stream. And then you've got the hard mode, like, the real hard mode mining section, which isn't all that bad, in my opinion, just because the ores are, like, in much larger quantities per vein than they are pre-hard mode. Like, all of the pre-hard mode ores are in such tiny little veins that you get, like, maybe 10 ore per vein on average or something. But all of the hard mode ores seem to spawn in pretty large chunks. Plus, you can even, like, spawn in more if you don't think you had enough, just by breaking more of the altars. But, like, genuinely, most of the time, like, you never have to break anywhere close to, like, all of the altars in your world. You can get away with kind of half-assing it and still have plenty of ore to go around. Alright, need to focus for a little bit, because I took more damage than I'd like in a bad engagement. So this is yeah. I'm still in, so like, once you're prepared, you can reasonably kill all of the mech bosses pretty easily. The one exception being Destroyer, which is like, super requires you to have a good source of piercing, otherwise you just can't really approach him at all. So that takes a little bit more preparation, but not too much more than any of the other bosses. Dauntless Stormbow really is like a super solid weapon that takes him out pretty easily. Alright, so now just down to one of the twins, which is pretty free. So long as you focus one in this boss fight, it's not bad. The mechanical bosses themselves are pretty enjoyable fights, I think, but like I said, I'll talk more about each independent boss later. After the mechanical bosses, though, and this whole time, like, I've neglected to mention it, but this whole time, now that you're in hard mode, Corruption and Crimson have the option of making your life miserable. It doesn't always make your life miserable, but definitely in the past 2 playthroughs I've done, it has. I don't know if that's a master mode change, or if that's just the way the game has always been, and I've just gotten lucky or something, but Corruption and Crimson have the ability to very quickly make your life a miserable chore of having to clean up after it constantly. And pre-Plantera preparation is also not that bad in my opinion. I think the only thing that kind of annoys me, I think they maybe have fixed it to some degree though, I can't remember. I always was very frustrated with, oops. Eesh. It's gonna be a while till I can heal. That's like the issue with the laser one. Sometimes you're just gonna get hit by it. It moves in a weird way where you're not always allowed to dodge. Like right now, it wants to be on the right side of me. So because I wasn't letting it get on the right side of me, it became very hard to dodge. There you go. Now it wants to be on the left side of me. We made it though. As sloppy as that was. The thing that annoyed me most with Plantera was the fact that you kind of, like, you want an open arena, like a pretty wide open area to fight him in, because fighting him in, like, the default claustrophobic jungle biome is pretty disgusting. Alright, let me see what you said while I was fighting. Titanium armor not having shadow dodge, it was just too strong. Like, that's a nerf I agree with. The shadow dodge was just too good to be, like, on a 50% roll for the world, right? Like, you get a world to hard mode, and then, sorry, you got adamantite, so you just have, like, a significantly worse armor than if you got luckier. Yeah, Spasmatipsum, he's an easy one. I could have gold hearts. You can. I think as soon as you enter hard mode, right? Or do you need to kill at least one mech boss? I don't remember. But they do show up. Alright. Is that enough metal to do something with now? I do not remember. Let me check. I can maybe... Ooh. Yeah, it's looking like I can. Where are the legs? Yep. Sick. So I will be super prepared for the final mech boss. Magic. Arranged. Okay. Cool. So yeah, the one thing that annoyed me about Plantera was that previously it would get enraged if it was underground but not in the underground jungle. And I can't remember, like I said, if it was a calamity change or a vanilla change. I think it was a vanilla change, though, that it does not enrage when being in underground, only when you bring it to the surface. Did I even keep the other cart piece? Yeah, they updated the hollowed armor, so it has a better look to it. I really don't know if I kept the other. It's looking like I didn't. Oh, did I put it in my piggy bank, maybe? Yeah, that's where it is. Okay. Gotcha. Don't care about getting a good price on this, just sell my armor. And move on. So yeah, as you can see, this now has the shadow dodge set bonus for a really long time. I think that's even longer than it was normally. Maybe I'm wrong, though. Alright, moving on. Back to killing hollowed mimics, or trying to. Can I? I thought I needed all of the souls to make that. Don't you? Oh, my guide died. I'll just bring out the metal. I'm pretty sure you need all the souls, though. Yep. Either that or I don't have enough bars, but regardless. Can't make it yet. Alright. I do also have to make the actual item to spawn the destroyer. But I think I'm not going to focus on that. Cool, I have enough souls to fight it once. Awesome. I don't know why they made this so expensive. 15 souls for one shot at it is a little overkill. No, not yet. I need a piercing weapon. Or at least would like a piercing weapon, because it's pretty... Like, even if you don't die, it's pretty hard to kill the destroyer within the nighttime. Unless you use a... Nimbus Rod? Really? I don't think I can rely on that being all of my damage. Seems a little bit too close for comfort. Oops. Thank God for the shadow dodge. That's the attack, by the way. I think I, like, briefly mentioned it previously, but, like, that slam attack. There's a few bosses that Calamity uses that use that exact slam AI, and it desyncs pretty bad. And anyways. Maybe they use their own AI, but if they did use their own AI, they should work on that too, because it desyncs just as bad as this guy's slam does. Because even in vanilla Terraria, the slam attack on these mimics desyncs really bad. So yeah, preparation for Plantera isn't as bad as it used to be, given the opportunity to make a pretty wide open arena without having to worry about enraging the boss, like, constantly mid-fight, because it steps its little tippy toes into normal underground, just because you made the arena, like, a little bit wider than you should have. Imagine any mimic looked like the ones from Dark Souls. I'm trying to think, like... How many mimics did Dark Souls 3... Did Dark Souls 3 have any mimics? It's been a while since I played Dark Souls 3. I know Dark Souls 2 had, like, a few, but definitely much less than Dark Souls 1. It definitely feels like they've kind of cut back on that. Cool. Awesome. The best weapon in the game. Well, back to farming for souls. And probably getting the exact same reward, because I'm unlucky. I should put down my, It's not decent. It's way, way too slow to actually use. If it's like your only option as melee, then like maybe you could make it work, but eh. Why am I walking? I'm walking because I get strange plants. Look at that. So yeah, once you start killing the mech bosses, I think that hard mode gets pretty enjoyable, since it no longer... Well, I don't know. It's still kind of annoying having to dig out as much of an arena as you should for Plantera. Because Plantera is like... Yeah, it's by far the most enjoyable vanilla Terraria boss fight. But it's only enjoyable when you make a decent arena for it. If you don't make a decent arena for it, like, you're always at a disadvantage trying to, like, clumsily make your way through cobwebs, bees, just the awkward terrain of the jungle, vines growing absolutely everywhere. Less than optimal. But assuming you make a decent arena, Plantera is very fun. Is that the summoner sword one? I'm assuming that's the yeah. Is it possible if you're so are we assuming that you're only using summoner weapons? I would say possible, but like as possible as doing any of the rest of the game using summoner only. Like, summoner is seriously only viable once you've got, I mean, pretty much post Moonlord, right? Like, until you can make the Stardust armor, summoner is just not really viable. It's, constantly at a disadvantage at the very least. You are very punished for playing Summoner. So yeah, well, I do think it's very annoying having to build arenas. I think it's annoying having to build arenas in general in this game. I saw, I don't know, there was some YouTube recommendation for a video about, like, a work-in-progress Terraria mod that has, like, very non-Terraria-like boss fights and, like, makes arenas for the boss fights themselves so you don't have to make the arenas. And that feels very weird, having, like, pre-generated arenas. So, I don't think that it can't be done. I mainly take issue with just the boss fights, because I don't think the boss fights looked that fun, honestly. At least from the ones that I have seen from that mod. They looked kinda clunky. They looked more like Starbound fights, and I really, really hate Starbound. I think that it is possibly, the only way you could do this, like, much, much worse than Terraria has. Let's go. The Legend of Reforging. I haven't really reforged that much at all in this playthrough. I probably should. Like, I could definitely use a lot more warding, but it's not super necessary. I'm not playing death mode or anything. Just simple master mode. By the time I get to Moonlord, I'll probably have to, though. Maybe even Plantera. But anyways, so yeah, Plantera, like, actually fighting Plantera is, like, the all-time high point of vanilla Terraria to me. Then you go straight into, well, I guess you can do a little bit of the new dungeon. And then you go into Golem, which is not horrible. Not spectacular either, though. You definitely get, like, tons of benefits for reforging, though. Like, the game rewards you way more than it should for reforging, in my opinion. Given that it's not even that difficult to get the top rolls. After mech bosses, really? I didn't really know the appropriate positioning for it. I'll give it a shot. Actually, she very difficult. I'll give it a shot, at least. May not translate well to master mode, but we'll see. I tried the, on the other character, the slime boss, a couple times, and it seemed very simple. You have to fight her during nighttime? Okay. Yeah, the slime boss felt very simple, and what the fuck? Pocket mirror? What is that? Oh. Come on. I wanted a real magic mirror, finally. You can do both, but she's harder during the day. It seems like I'll probably lean towards nighttime then. At least for the first attempt. Apparently, immunity to petrification, which is a debuff literally only one enemy has. Wait, 2 enemies? Maybe 2. I can't remember if, like, hard mode lizard guys can do it with their stings. I think it's just Medusa, though. Anyways. Yeah, I know. Take an accessory slot to avoid what's not even that scary of a debuff. It used to be a lot worse. But Medusa doesn't seem to petrify you quite as much as she used to. How many souls? Ugh, not enough. I should probably just go for it though, since it's, yep, close to nighttime. Probably not even going to be able to fit in a fight. I'll try though. Alright. Do this quickly. Take it, take all my garbage. I stacked my souls, of course I did. And get enough to make a chest. Okay. There it is. Where's the chest? There it is. Alright. Post Golem, if I'm remembering correctly, I mean, all you have is, if you want to, you can fight Fishron. Fishron is not the most enjoyable fight, in my opinion, for a number of reasons. But I guess I'll get into that now, because the only thing left is Moonlord. Moonlord and the Lunar event is probably, like, one of the lowest parts of the game for me, though, because Moonlord himself is also not that fun of a fight, in my opinion. And add on to that that you have to do a full event pretty much every time you want to fight him. I like that section, actually. I think the post-Plantera dungeon is one of the more enjoyable parts for me. Like, you can see a clear line on what I enjoy in the game. Anything that is just, like, killing enemies, I'm down for. Killing enemies for, like, rare drops, killing enemies just because the game forces you to, and killing bosses are the high points for me. Particularly the bosses, when they are good boss fights, though. Events. Some of the events are fun. Some of them not so much, especially the ones that are kind of forced on you and don't really have that great of rewards. Come on, dude, I'm trying to kill you quickly. And I didn't get it. I mean, that's not bad piercing damage anyways. Maybe I'll just give it a shot. Yeah, just throw that away. Just because I've got nothing better to do. Let's craft the destroyer item. Let's give it a shot. I'm not gonna make any other potions than the regen one I just found naturally. 6 of these. I don't know, a bunch of those, and a bunch of those. Cool. And then he just floats off into the darkness. Awesome enemy. Alright, apparently Nimbus Rod could prove useful. Eh. If you're looking at his health bar, I don't know. I think it might not be good enough. Ah, no, actually, it's not bad. It's not bad. This is pretty bad. This isn't doing that much. This is probably better for me. Almost got hit by his head. Okay, the eyeballs are a little bit more than I can handle. Goodbye. That ended pretty quickly. If you've got no crowd control, you just can't kill Destroyer. That went about as well as I expected it to. Alright. Back to farming Souls of Light, I guess. Oh, I never even put my candle down. Probes are the only challenge, yeah. The shotgun isn't horrible at dealing with them, but, you know. The storm bow is clearly a better option. If given the opportunity. Alright, so now we get to talk about each individual boss and what their purposes are and if they're good. So starting with Eye of Cthulhu, I would say, yeah, Eye of Cthulhu is probably about as good as you can do with the first boss in a game like this. Pretty much no complaints, honestly. Oh, did they change it so you always use your best potion? Because that was not in the top left slot. Look at that. That's a nice improvement. Eye of Cthulhu's attacks, so like what I value in a boss fight is force the player to move in an interesting way, and if possible, I wish I could connect these. Like, why isn't that spreading anymore? 'Cause there's a little bit of snow. Whatever. That's fine. Force the player to move in interesting ways, and... God, I hate slowness. Hopefully be difficult to hit in the process. Not difficult to hit to the point where that's like the main thing about the boss fight, is it's so small you can't hit it, but make it move in interesting ways outside of forcing you to move in interesting ways, and I mean that's about it for a good boss fight, really. Other than that, just make it flashy. Make the player feel like they're cool in the process. And the easiest way to make a character feel like they're cool is add tons more bullets than is necessary, including bullets that will literally never be a threat. Like, that's the entire premise behind Bullet Hell is... Yes, there are, like, hundreds of bullets on screen at once, but, like, on average, maybe 10% of those bullets you actually have to care about. That's not entirely true. Like, there is some interest in, like, you can have a lot of bullets that you actually have to kind of try and decipher in an interesting pattern. Like, one of my favorite patterns is, like a net of bullets that is also rotating slightly and has like different layers with different gaps in them, and you have to time the gaps in between them. I think that's a fun attack that is pretty common in Bullet Hell. But obviously you don't want that as your very first boss in a game like this. I mean, you could. I'm not sure how many people would make it past that point, though. So as an easy, like, acceptable, you know, first endeavor into a Terraria boss fight, it still maintains, like, everything I would want. given your very, very limited movement options at the time, you can't be expected to have, like, that interesting of dodges, but... Oh, no, he just fell really far. I was gonna say, that slime is just gone. No, well now he's in corruption, so it doesn't even matter. Yeah, thanks for the Soul of Night. Awesome. But even still, like, expert mode with the increased speed of its, like, later dashes in the fight, you still have to, like, grapple around. Like, in all likelihood, you're going to have to grapple around, and definitely benefits you to have, like, at least one platform to, like, grapple up to, you know? So, Eye of Cthulhu, it gets a pass. That's a decently fun fight. Although very simple, and maybe a little tanky, in my opinion, especially in Master Mode. The fight just lasts longer than the fight actually remains interesting, which is like the one thing you need to balance when you're introducing HP to a boss, right? I've never fought that boss, because I've never really played the game on console. So I have no idea how fun that boss fight is. Maybe it's great. But that's the one Terraria boss I have no experience with. Pretty hard. Yeah, that's what you would want, since at the time it was the final boss, right? Yeah, the only issues I have with Eye of Cthulhu are perhaps on Master Mode, it being tankier than is necessary, because when balancing boss HP, all you should care about is the average player going to experience all the boss has to offer? And given that Eye of Cthulhu, in its second phase, literally does one thing, which is dash, and then dash faster, I would say that, yeah, within, like, the first time it does that attack, players have already experienced everything the boss has to offer. I don't really agree with balancing a boss's HP around challenge. Like, if the boss fight is still going on, past, like, way past the point where you've seen everything it has to offer, it should have less HP. And if you want it to be harder, then make it harder in other ways. Give it more attacks, so it stays interesting, and then you can push the health farther if you're going to introduce new attacks at certain points, but, like, if at the halfway point in a boss fight you've seen everything there is, that should be the end of the boss fight. It shouldn't extend to twice its length. Anyways. Next boss we have is, well, it could be one of two. Or it could be B, I guess, if you're weird. But in all likelihood, it's either going to be Brain of Cthulhu, or the Eater of Worlds. Eater of Worlds, I would argue, is not that great of a boss fight. I think that most of the worm fights aren't great boss fights. I think I've said that the exception is Destroyer, which is decent, because, like, it's not just a worm fight. Although, once you kill all of the eyes, it kind of is. There's only 2 worm fights in the vanilla Terraria, actually. So, all of the worm fights isn't really saying that much, but, yeah, Eater of Worlds is not fun. There's some level of satisfying to it when you start breaking up the bits, but as an actual boss fight, for the most part, it doesn't really pose any threat. The fact that it shoots bullets in expert mode helps, but not that much, considering the bullets aren't even really aimed at you. I don't think they're aimed at you at all. I think they just shoot perpendicular of the segment that shot it. And the fact that you can shoot the bullets makes them a pretty non-threat, honestly. So, Eater of Worlds is a stinker for me. But that's okay, because the alternate to it, Brain of Cthulhu, is a pretty fun fight, in my opinion. I think that it does everything I would want, so like, the one weird part about it is the... Yo, congrats. I've never actually used the sniper. It seemed, or has always seemed to me to be too slow to be useful. 412 damage. I mean, that's also fair. You can't really argue with that number sometimes. It's probably also not helped by the fact that I never really use good bullets in this game. So maybe that would change my opinion on the sniper. But yeah, Brain of Cthulhu, so I like the fight is very trivialized, unfortunately, just by having like really fast attack speed, which you can do with the mini shark at this point. But I also don't think that that's too horribly bad, given that you fight it so early on. Like, the fact that it has, like, a super easy hard counter isn't the worst thing. I mean, the Eater of Worlds is similarly countered just by having any source of piercing damage, right? So, having hard counters this stage in the game isn't horrible. And even outside of that, like, it's still a fun fight to engage with. Like, the amount of eyes that the fight starts with, you still have to dodge, like, a little bit. And I think the way that the fight ends is pretty fun, too. In expert mode, specifically, the fact that it makes, like, clones of itself that you have to identify quickly. And it's, like, it's the perfect amount of, like, the HP on this boss, even in Master Mode, I think is, like, really well balanced to the point where, I'm never, like, done with the fight before the fight is over. And the fact that the boss fight, like, slowly becomes, like, gradually harder as you decrease its health, and it gets, like, harder to distinguish from its clones, makes the final part of the fight pretty fun. You don't really have to dodge that much, though, but it's fine if, like, a boss fight introduces a unique challenge, right? That's not bad. Even if it isn't, like, dodged in the traditional way boss fights are dodged in. So long as you don't do that too often, you can have, like, a one-off boss that's a little bit weird in its own way. Enemies spawn in walls so more often than they used to. So on to the next one, which at this point I'm just going to throw in B, because there's nowhere else to put B, really. The B fight isn't bad itself. I just think that the place you fight it in is not optimal. Like, because the fight is so unrewarding, nobody wants to make an arena for the B fight, and it's not even that hard of a fight either. I guess the one downside I would put against the B is just the fact that it's in a kind of weird spot and kind of not really rewarding at all. So docks it points for A, not being required, and B, not being rewarding, so what is the point of the fight, right? You're just doing it for an NPC that, again, is also, to most people, not rewarding, since the NPC doesn't even give you good wings anymore. But the fight itself, I mean, it's fine. It's very simple. It's literally just, like, goes between shooting you and making bees, and then dashes in between. The one, like, genuine complaint is the fact that I mean, they've improved the bullets a little bit, but they're still pretty hard to see, and bees are just impossible to see at all times, so definitely doesn't help. I would want that one more than the other one I have. I have just like, okay, I shouldn't get rid of, I'm not using my dyes though, like, oh, whatever. Let's try for Daedalus Stormbow again. Alright, ignoring B-nades. We're gonna ignore the cheese. You don't really get that much out of the B fight outside of potentially B-nades. Like, the summoner armor, as I've already gone into detail about, is unusable. Or, at the very least, borderline unusable. So yeah, that's really all you have is the B-nades, and it's not great. Where's my dye guy? Still underground? Thankfully this place hasn't re-corrupted. Living rainbow dye. There we go, that's what I'm talking about. Gel wings and gel. Gel something, I don't know. I don't really use anything else, I guess that? Because nope, it doesn't even make my double jump different colored. You know what, that's good enough. Bee-gun is very good crowd control, Beekeeper is very solid sword, bow is also good. Are any of those options better than the boomstick? For general use, though. Which is an item you just run into the dungeon and get for free, probably on your way to the bee fight. And then, if you want something... Like, the only thing that the boomstick can't really do is kill Wall of Flesh. You just get the, this one, Hellwing Bow, and you're done. That's all you need for pre-hard mode weapons. Easy peasy. There they are. I guess it's not, like, that the rewards are useless, it's just that the rewards are useless relative to how much easier other rewards are. Holy shit, I didn't realize I got the steampunker. Finally. Finally. Just get out of my world, corruption. And again, this section has been corrupted for seemingly no reason. Alright, let's see if I can do anything about the desert situation. Probably not. It's been so long that it's probably spread beyond control. Because that's what the desert does. It spreads beyond control. Like, the only option to fix it is, like, separate this top part of the desert from the underground entirely, but not sure if you've noticed, it's sand, which is about the most annoying block to try and separate from other sand. That's not something you can really do. It does kind of look like I've hit it all, though, right? That's pretty close to the bottom. I might be able to get it pretty easily. I mean, hopefully, I could get it pretty easily. It's gonna be annoying, no matter how you look at this. I'll try. Luckily, the underground hasn't been corrupted. Too bad, at least. Maybe a little bit on the left side, but we'll see. Just going to try and ignore everything and dig to the left. We'll see when we hit corruption, I guess. So yeah, after B-Boss, which is in a weird spot, you have Skeletron. Skeletron without the expert mode additions is pretty horrible. Skeletron with the expert additions is not much better. I don't really think, I don't know, his hands just don't really move in a, like, very readable way. Like when you're dodging, the fuck is that? Oh, a fried egg, awesome. When you're dodging Skeletron, it's pretty random seeming. Like, you just try and get away from him. There's no, like, reading his hand movements and being like, oh, he's doing a left swing, quick. Dodge under it, you know? It's just like, oh, I wasn't far enough away from him, so I just got randomly swiped, right? And the fact that he shoots bullets in expert mode definitely helps in making it a little bit more of an engaging fight, especially once his hands are gone. But it's not too much of an improvement. So Skeletron is it's an eh. It's a solid eh. Okay, that's pretty badly corrupted over there. I'm surprised that none of this really got touched, though. That's nice. I was afraid it would have gotten bad. Let's look into the walls with the Contaminator. Yeah, seemingly, like, all clean, huh? Sick. I'm glad that the corruption was pretty surface level. I do want to get up there and test that a bit more, because I feel that it's pretty likely at least like one block up here is going to be corrupted. What? Why is my weapon not hitting him? Okay. It felt like the explosions were going straight through him. What? Which boss did I leave off on? Skeletron? Yeah, it's a weird one. Dungeon is fun, though. Decently fun, at least. Oh, I do hate the new addition to the dungeon, though. What am I doing? Where am I going? I guess it is faster to walk. I was figuring I couldn't teleport, and I probably can't. Yeah, only one NPC moved in. Oops. So after Skeletron, it is just a wall of flesh pre-hard mode. Oh, King Slime. I mean, no one needs me to... Cool. No one needs me to talk about King Slime, right? Like, the boss has no attacks. It just spawns enemies. Which is pretty much how I feel about Queen Slime, too. I mean, she, I guess, has attacks, but it's basically just enemy spam. From what I've seen, and like way too much of it from its health bar. So Wall of Flesh as a fight is also pretty unenjoyable in my opinion. Not only do you need, or are incentivized to make a massive platform for Wall of Flesh, it's also not a very fun fight. Like, really, the meat of the fight is just running, and the actual, like, dodging you have to do. Dude, can I please get back to where I was? The actual dodging is just like, I don't know, sometimes you jump up and down a little bit. Like, the lasers it shoots are pretty forgettable. Other than that, like, it spawns worms, I guess, which are kind of a threat, but not that much. Dude, I'm gonna die again. Okay, somehow lived. I thought the cactus was gonna kill me for sure. But yeah, worms aren't a threat. The little... what are they called? The hungry aren't a threat so long as you aren't, like, directly in the boss's face, which is plausible if you're doing melee, but why are you ever doing melee? Okay, this should be a clean desert. I've pretty much touched everything. I want to touch that left section a little bit more, if I can, but I need more Contaminator juice. Where did she... oh, there she is. Alright. So yeah, Wall of Flesh is not a particularly fun fight. The dodging is just this. Like, literally what I'm doing right now is the dodging. Like, take off my wings and just use hover boots, but it's the same thing, you know? You just running, shooting backwards, and jumping up and down. Now, once you enter hard mode, the bosses get a lot more interesting. Twins, while not being that difficult, are a pretty fun fight. The fact that you have to manage two of them obviously adds interest. The fact that they do different attacks individually adds interest. The only issue I really have is with Spasmatism and the fact that his lasers are, like, if they're going to hit you, they're going to hit you. They just move too quickly to, like, reasonably, like, see the laser and predictively get out of the way. It's pretty much like, you know, if you're already heading in the direction where he decides to shoot, there's nothing you can do. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. So I can't just say, oh, well, it's okay, because most of the time you're fine. Now, on top of that, because the fight is so easy, it also kind of, again, suffers the same thing that Eye of Cthulhu suffers, which makes sense, because it's like the harder version of the Eye of Cthulhu, but it really is much too long of a fight for how much gets added to it as you progress through the fight. That's the case for, like, all of the mech bosses, though. And, like, pretty much every boss in Terraria is a little bit longer than I think boss fights ought to be. Skeletron Prime, as we experienced last time I played, well, not last time anymore, time before last time. Last time I actually did something. What? Why is there a gnome down here? And a mimic. What have I done to get such rare spawns? Yeah, Skeletron Prime, probably even worse of a fight than Expert Mode Skeletron is, just because the hand swiping is much less of an issue since you have more movement options at this point. But, I don't know, it's just not a very engaging fight. Like, all of the things that are easily dodgeable are way too easily dodgeable. So, there's no real threat to them. Isn't there something I can do with this? Wait, move my guide back in here. I thought there was something I could do with this now. A new recipe they added. There is! I don't really care about that. Yeah, Skeletron Prime, he has like two different kinds of attacks. The attacks that you would be stupid to ever be hit by, and the attacks that are not very likely to hit you, but if you do get hit by them, it's kind of like not totally your fault. So I don't know how I feel about Skeleton Prime. I would probably just lean on the edge of saying, oh, do I really not have a single Gills potion in there? Sorry, little unfocused at the moment. I lean towards saying I've never made the key. I lean towards saying, yeah, like all of the things that... You don't really have to think about dodging Skeletron, which is why it's not a very good fight. Like, you just kind of fly away from him and accidentally dodge most of the attacks, and the ones that you get hit by, like, not much you can do to avoid them. So, pretty awful fight. On to the final one, the Destroyer. Definitely a better boss fight than the Eater of Worlds, because the segments don't break apart, so it is just like one dodgeable boss, and the fact that there is a real threat, because the bullets the Eater of Worlds shoots are pretty much never going to hit you. The fact that it basically makes, like, ooh, I mean, if you want to call enemies homing bullets, like, that's what they kind of are, like the little drones he spawns when you hit him can do contact damage, they shoot their own bullets, along with the Destroyer shooting his own bullets. There's a lot more that you have to dodge. And it's pretty active dodging, too, especially with the drones and the fact that you have to kind of manage them to a degree, because if you have too many of them, there's just way too many things to dodge at once. So Destroyer, decent. You don't get too much in the form of rewards for any of these bosses, though. It is just kind of something you have to do to progress the game, and then after enough of them, you get the armor set. Destroyer being the exception, you can get the Mega Shark from just killing the Destroyer. With the Mega Shark... Oh, there we go. Okay. Mega Shark has lost some of its original charm, I would say. Alright, so we have a real weapon now. We're taking out the Destroyer. How are these arrows? Yeah, they're gonna get super fucked by that floating island. Just try and stay on the lower platforms, I guess. Either that, or buy some dynamite and get rid of the floating island. Also an option. Let's see how affordable that would be. Probably pretty affordable. Where did I get these healing potions from? No idea. Oh, from the Mimic. Ooh, forgot they dropped that. Cool. Okay. And then the next boss is, of course, my all-time favorite, which is Plantera. Is like the king of interesting dodging. So long as you have a proper arena, like I said. If you don't have a proper arena, good luck, buddy. It's just an unfun fight, really. Like, nobody wants to, like, drudge through the disgusting layout of the default jungle. Why is it still so corrupted here? Oh well. Deal with that later if I have to. I guess at this point I just need to make piercing arrows. Let me see. So I could make, in all likelihood, holy arrows. Yeah. Yeah. Do they pierce? No, they don't pierce. They make stars. That's right. Which, I mean, stars pierce. So, technically, yeah, they pierce. Pixie dust and unicorn horns. Easy. Easy peasy. I'll work on that. I should actually just have enough just from the walking back and forth and the hollowed I did last time. There we go. Where's my merchant? I wish everybody's houses weren't just complete random. But that's fine. If only somebody could do something about that. Die Trader and Arms Dealer. There you go. But yeah, why is Plantera a fun fight? The boss is constantly trying to get towards you. Its hands are a threat in the second phase when it has like little plant things around it. It's constantly shooting at you, so you constantly are forced to move in some fashion, typically in a circle around him. But you do have to switch it up in phase 2 when its hands start becoming an actual obstacle, so it's just a very fun fight that like commonly mixes up the way you have to dodge. The spike balls are like less of a threat when you build a proper arena, but they can be like something you have to consider in the early on parts of the fight. Golem is not horrible. I don't really dislike the Golem fight. It's more so... I guess I'll just make all of them, sure. It's just like... It's similarly weird to the way I look at... Who's it? It's similar to the way I look at the bee, honestly. The only reward for it is just that you're required to fight it. Golem rewards are kind of eh. Yeah, it's in a very weird spot. Like, the fact that you pretty much do it instantly after Plantera, like, you can do a little bit of dungeon stuff, maybe chlorophyte mining, but, I don't know. The fight itself is okay. Plantera does have decent music for it. I probably definitely want Archery Potion. And I guess the only one I would really care about is... Oops, I already have a regen, is Iron Skin. The first phase of Golem, I don't know, breaking his hands just feels stupid. You don't... Like, outside of the fact that you would like to do it before the next phase of the fight, the fists aren't really a threat. It's really just the head shooting at you. And then in phase 2, I don't know. I think it's just a little bit too hectic for the tiny arena you're given for it, but also the fight is like completely trivialized by taking it out of that arena, which is probably why they made it so you can't do that anymore. That being said, the Calamity Death mode, or it's probably just Revengeance mode that has the AI change I'm thinking of, where the head like moves around you in a somewhat interesting way, makes the fight a little bit better. But especially if you're still confined to that tiny arena, I feel like that would even be worse than it currently is now. I don't know. Not the best fight. And then, well, Fishron. We can talk about Fishron, because I really dislike Fishron. I can't really speak about the new bosses, because I haven't gotten that much of a chance to fight them. I wanted to see if I could buy a dynamite. Yeah, that's not that bad. Let's just buy a handful of them. And go to, make some sticky ones. just take a little bit off the bottom of this floating island. So, I guess Cultist counts as a boss, doesn't he? Cultist is a pretty non-boss fight, really. It has very few attacks, and all of its attacks are very simple to dodge in vanilla Terraria. The only thing you could really mess up is... Did that break my platform? Very slightly. The only thing you can really mess up is... Oh fuck, it broke the campfire too. That's... yeah, okay, that's fixed. It gives you walls too. I didn't think it gave you those back from Dynamite. Calamity makes the fight a little bit better. The only thing you can mess up is what I was saying, is accidentally spawning the long dragon guy by shooting the wrong one, but that's like, come on. Not only is that pretty easy to avoid, it's also just not that punishing. It's just a weird non-boss fight. And then the event afterwards is like by far the worst part of the game. And then it leads up to the final boss, which is a very disappointing conclusion, in my opinion. What is wrong with Moonlord? There's a number of things wrong with Moonlord. Oh wait, I forgot I was going to talk about Fishron. Okay, wait. Fishron is bad because A, you have to fight it in way too confined of a space. B, I mean, A might just be because I play on a small world, which I've already talked about. B, because you're in such a confined space, the some of its attacks are like far too large and take up like 100% of your dodgeable area, like the massive tornadoes he makes. And C, I think the expert mode version of the fight is maybe the worst addition to any boss fight. Just like flat out making the boss teleport and invisible is on Death Mode Calamity especially, where they really emphasize that part of the fight. It's pretty unenjoyable in my opinion. But Fishron does have some of the best rewards from any boss fight. Outside of Moonlord, obviously, but that's like, the game is over, so why does it matter? I should probably make the boss item, huh? So on to Moonlord. I think Moonlord is, it's mainly unenjoyable for the just absolute mess of completely unsynchronized attacks that come out of it. It is... So, the way it works is, at all times, and this is going off of the most recent time I fought it, which was in Calamity Death mode, and then I turned it down to Revengeance mode, like I said. But, from what I recall, the way it works is... How does it work? It, like, shoots a, like, blast of 2 bullets from its hands, and then shoots a blast of 2 bullets from its other hands, and then at some point after doing that a few times, it does its eye laser. I guess the biggest thing that I think is weird about Moonlord is I don't really know how the game expects you to fight it. It's a very... Like, especially previous to 1.4, when you could make an arena that the laser doesn't go through, it was a super cheesable fight. So I'm not sure if that was their intention with the fight, which definitely seems like it was probably not, since they removed it. Where am I going with this? I'm just trying to craft this so I can focus on what I'm talking about again. It just doesn't offer that much in the way of interesting dodges. So like the only thing that's slightly interesting is its laser that, like, if you're dodging it correctly, you just go in like a circle around his main head eye every now and then. But especially once you've broken his hand eyes and they're like flying all over the place, that doesn't really become all that viable. Like, there's just too much going on in the fight that are not really synchronized at all to reasonably dodge, in my opinion. That's right, that's what the hands do. They do, like, they leave like a trail of eyes that come after you, and then they shoot like the thing of 2 bullets. And then when the eyes detach, they do the same thing, except it's a ring of eyes that comes at you, and they still shoot the 2 bullets. I think, but like I said, Calamity changes it a bit, so I don't fully remember. But it wasn't a super enjoyable boss fight the first time I went through with it. Oh, that's cool. Oh, wait, I'm using the wrong arrows. That could have been a lot better. Oops, I did not mean to use that. Oh well. This shouldn't be as bad as it was last time, now that I have a real weapon to take care of it. Oops. Don't do that, though. Avoid just walking directly into the enemy. Okay. Okay. Destroyer still has its problems. Destroyer is, like, significantly easier by not using an arena, honestly, so I should probably just be running in one direction. But at this point, I kind of committed. Destroyer is still outside of Skeletron Prime, which is a pretty low bar. My least favorite of the bosses, just because of how tanky it is. And in Master Mode, seemingly its damage is pretty heavily boosted. Alright, let's probably... We would still be able to kill it in this time frame, so let's just make another one real quick. I'm lucky I don't have to farm for Souls of Night yet, and probably won't before I kill it. Alright, now let's go with the real arrows to start out with too. Oh, and I should get buff potions. Now we're kind of stretching for time if I'm gonna make the potions I need, but I could probably do it pretty fast. 2 of these. 2 of these. And wait. 1 of these. 1 of these. There you go. Legendary crafter. Oops. Sick start. Just use a potion. Alright, so I am going to do the non-platform strat this time. Just because getting away from all of the probes being, like, in the same spot helps a lot. Like when you have the freedom to like use your full mobility to move. That was almost bad with those notches on top of the platform. What is hitting me? I wish the lasers on these guys weren't so thin. Like, why not have them the same thickness as the boss's lasers? You have to dodge all of them, or would like to dodge all of them, in theory. Going better. Might as well throw that down. Oh shit, I'm using my arrows way faster than I thought I would be. That's less than optimal. Switch to shotgun to clear some of these stragglers that have lived for so long. Alright, that just made more stragglers, so I guess this was doing better. It was probably the rain that made more stragglers, honestly, because the rain really does shred them up more than I was giving it credit for. Ooh, shit! His tail still stuck there. And obviously you have the benefit of the hearts being left by all of the probes as you kill them, so that helps. Alright, this is looking significantly better. Arrows should hold until the end of the fight. And now he's spawning significantly less probes since they've already been taken out of his body. Yeah, we're shredding him. All it took was a decent place to fight him. Cool. We're done dissing the bosses. I just... They're very niche complaints with a lot of the bosses, but I do think that a lot of them could use a little touch-up. Now, if we're talking about Calamity bosses I have way more specific issues with. I've already talked at length a little bit about the worm bosses in Calamity, so I don't really want to go back into that, but... Yeah, Calamity bosses have their problems too. So it's, you know, the takeaway is basically... It's not easy to make a good boss fight. Calamity does still hold. My favorite boss fight, though. Will always hold the Providence fight. I guess I should take these souls out, huh? And where... There it is. Quick stacked it. As you'd expect. Might as well make the minecart since I can. The only thing you get from expert mode. Sorry, desert minecart. Alright, pickaxe axe, here we go. And that's all I really want to make, right? Yeah. I guess I could make this. Since, I do have a whip in my other slot. Why not? So what do you get for this whip? Melee speed increased. See, now that's a real improvement. That's a much better 2-second buff than the single snowflake that does like 10 damage. And you could alternate to another melee weapon, though for 2 seconds it's not really viable, honestly. It's pretty good. It's weird that it says melee speed despite this being summon damage. I wonder if it's secretly tagged as melee somewhere. Alright. Well, glad to be done with that. What else is there? What else is there in this world? I guess better than that. I should do that. There you go. Now my dye is where I want it. Really, it's just Plantera, huh? I could mine chlorophyte now. There's already been a lot of progress, though. Maybe I pivot to a run of monster trains since I didn't do that at all last time. I think that is going to be it for the Terraria. I also really fucking need water, so I'm gonna go get water too. But yeah, good Terraria segment.